Okay, we are here on WPPM 106.5 in Philadelphia with Kenyatta James, the page director for the Economy League of Greater Philadelphia. Mr. James, thank you for being with us.
And thank you for having me.
So, can you tell us a little bit about what the Economy League is?
So the Economy League is a over 100-year-old think and do tank. It was originally founded by kind of the progressive wing of the business community as a way to get a better understanding of how policy affected major issues in Philadelphia. So everything from taxation, which is makes sense given that it's the Economy League, but other policies that have to do with workforce, with the way businesses are supported and administered by the government. And really, that organization has evolved under the leadership of our current executive director to do more hands-on programming as well. So we're realizing that being able to talk about policy and provide great resources and research, it does have an impact. But our ability to convene partners, because we have so many amazing institutions on our board and we've built so many great relationships over time, puts us in a position to be able to do very good direct programming. So the program that I'm the director of, PAGE, which is Philadelphia Anchors for Growth and Equity, as well as the Well City Challenge, and some of the other work that we do across the region really came out of this insight.
Okay. And so, how would you describe the Economy League's role in helping Philadelphia reduce its poverty rate?
Well, I think that that role is twofold. Um, Of course, there's the thing that we traditionally do that we've been doing for a long time, which is providing information. So Mike Shields, our research director, does an amazing job of doing the research to understand, what does poverty look like in Philadelphia? You know what I mean? How exactly do we measure it? Is it growing? Is it decreasing or increasing? Who's in poverty? What neighborhoods have the most poverty or the least poverty, and what changes that have happened at the policy level or in terms of housing prices or employment trends have affected those poverty levels. So really it starts there with understanding the situation, looking at the information, and looking at the potential policies that could affect those situations, and just have being kind of level-headed and clear about what changes might be necessary. One of those insights that we were able to glean over time was that procurement from these large institutions in Philadelphia could be used in a way that would potentially reduce the poverty rate in the city by putting more dollars into local businesses and a little bit more specifically into some of the Black and brown businesses in the city. That would create opportunities, grow these businesses, and create new employment opportunities.
So, and I'm glad you brought that up because one of your chief responsibilities is you're the director of the Philadelphia Anchors for Growth and Equity program, PAGE. And I have to plead my ignorance. I cover city council, and it was mentioned in the city council hearing. I thought, I need to know what this is. I wasn't sure, which is why I reached out to you. And I'm so glad we're talking now because this is tying into a couple things we've been talking about on the show, in addition to conversations we've been having in city council and really around the city about procurement. So tell me about the program a little bit more and how important it is the allocation of those procurement dollars to Philadelphia.
Mhm. So yeah, the program really brings together the hospitals and the colleges, as well as some of the leading corporate programs from companies like Independence Blue Cross. Um, and I should take a step back. First of all, what we consider an anchor is some of the large institutions in the city that are Philadelphia institutions, right? They're not likely to leave. It'd probably be very difficult for them. The Children's Hospital of Philadelphia can't exactly pick up and go to Baltimore, right? So that's what makes these anchor institutions. And these institutions spend billions of dollars every year. So we understand that that is a huge amount of money that circulates through our economy. And while different organizations have had a different level of commitment throughout the years, overall, there hasn't been as much effort paid to how that procurement spend could build the local economy as there should have been over the last couple of years. So we have these institutions that bring in billions of dollars in revenue, spend billions of dollars. They hire and employ a ton of people in the city, but they also have all of this procurement money, some of which could be directed towards local city organizations in a way that would create more jobs and have the sort of positive multiplier effects that we want to see. Um, so my job is really to help these organizations coordinate, to provide them with data, with resources, and with kind of a more in-depth understanding of the market so that they can more easily and effectively work with local institutions. And then also to help them share best practices across their organizations. So many times in the procurement space, you get different issues that can affect businesses negatively. Things like uh, very long payment terms. Institutions are known for paying over 60 or 90 days. And if you're a giant institution like Allied Security, that doesn't matter to you. But if you're a neighborhood institution, it can be very difficult to float, to need to pay employees, potentially purchase product and provide services this entire time. But to not actually receive your payment for 60 or 90 days is quite difficult. So some institutions have been able to cut down on their payment terms. And the way that they do that sometimes is by learning from other institutions, what it took for them. It's a lot easier for a college to look at another college and say, oh, that's how you made this change. We can do something similar. So that's part of what I facilitate as well. And going to your question about the importance of procurement, like I said, these are billions of dollars being spent every year. This is money that has to be spent. These are services that these organizations absolutely need, from janitorial help to construction help when they're building new buildings, to accounting and help with staffing. It's a really diverse set of needs. But this is money that is being spent. It's money that has to be spent. And it's money that, even if a small percentage of it was redirected into the community, would increase the opportunity for Philadelphia businesses by millions and millions of dollars. So that is a gigantic amount of impact that we could see, even if it's a relatively small percentage of what an organization spends. And that's what makes procurement such a unique opportunity.
And when we talk about the multiplier effect, and for those who are unfamiliar with the term, maybe the best way to describe it is like a ripple effect across the economy. You spend more money here, and then it creates more jobs, and then more people have more money, and then it's this sort of happy cycle of upward mobility. What are we really talking about when we discuss that multiplier effect? Are we looking at, is there a way to sort of quantify that? Are there studies about that? What's a good way to describe that to people?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question. There are different ways to quantify it. One of the issues that we have is that we have to take a long view, right? So if someone gets a multi-year contract, we might not really see the impact of that until year 2 or 3. Many times these contracts are progressive if you're shifting from one supplier to another. So the first year might be, $100,000, $200,000, and then by the fifth year, it's a $3 million a year contract. It's during that fifth year that you're really going to see the impact. One of the ways that you can tell is by looking at the growth of these organizations. Are they building new building? Are they leasing more office space? And then if you see like PIDC has industrial development zones. If you see organizations, local organizations that are getting more anchor contracts, building buildings in those industrial development zones, and then you see food trucks showing up, or you see restaurants showing up to now serve the office workers in these buildings. You see them purchasing new equipment from local vendors, or purchasing other services from local vendors. You see them opening up new job opportunities and hiring local people to staff them. Those are some of the different metrics that we look for, both kind of quantitatively and qualitatively. Know what I mean? Part of the way that we're going to make sure that we're seeing investment in this sector is by being able to tell really good stories. And nothing tells a story of growth like a brand new shiny building being built in a neighborhood in, West or North Philly that traditionally has not seen this type of investment and growth.
So do you have some examples of success stories in this realm, or maybe opportunities that are still being missed that would be easy
Mm.
for a connection?
Yeah, I mean, it's been reported on a lot, but one of our best success stories is IMSCO. They're doing a lot of things that I talked about, right? They're building a new building in the Parkside area of West Philadelphia. We were able to support them in structuring corporate partnerships that allowed them to work with our anchor institutions to provide lab supplies. And they've gotten consistent opportunities with PIN, with CHOP, with a couple of our other anchor institutions that have allowed them to grow, to hire, and to build a new building and to add to the facade of the city and to build in a neighborhood that traditionally didn't get this type of investment. We do have a couple of other really, good big examples, but there's also a lot of smaller opportunities where we're seeing the growth, but it's just one staff person. But if you multiply that over, 30 businesses in a sector, then you see what the growth potential really looks like. And that might be in spaces like catering, where we're constantly making recommendations. And each one of those catering companies is only going to add one or two more additional staff. But it's really creating a great opportunity for a family to build wealth, for a couple of employees to grow. And by taking that money and shifting it into a couple of small vendors, now you're seeing 5, 6, 10, 15 new jobs being created and being created in a field that, the large players traditionally don't pay that well, but the smaller businesses offer some opportunity for growth, like food service. So that's always exciting for me. I was a small business owner, entrepreneur myself, so I like to see those small upticks in employment. I know how exciting that is from the entrepreneur's perspective. I think overall, one of the issues that we're seeing in this when we think about business growth is that it can be difficult for large institutions to do business with smaller businesses. They haven't necessarily designed their procurement departments in a way that is friendly to small business because in general they don't work as much with small business, right? So how does a hospital switch from ordering books from Amazon to Uncle Bobby's bookstore? That can be a difficult transition if your staff is used to doing one thing or another. And it doesn't mean that the smaller business can't provide great service. It just means that it requires a different type of thinking about how you get this service provided and who your point people are and the type of service you expect during the process.
And do you think that's been the biggest barrier towards larger organizations working with smaller local businesses?
I would say it's one of the biggest barriers. Um, I think overall the biggest barrier is that, and anyone who works in procurement will tell you, um, procurement at large institutions is often a little bit disorganized. You have lots of departments that purchase their own products or services. So you have lots of small orders going out that aren't necessarily centralized. And you also have, even when it comes through the centralized procurement, sometimes the procurement staff don't get enough information early on, or they might get something with very short notice. And if you don't have a lot of decision to vet potential vendors, then it's very easy to go with the vendor that you used in the past. But that doesn't open up opportunities for new vendors to enter. So that's been a challenge. Um, Sometimes the type of list that are out there have been a challenge as well. Many times the lists are a little bit broad. It'll say things like, caterers. So if you need a caterer that does grilling for an outdoor team event, just looking at a list of people that do catering doesn't necessarily give you that background information. And calling every minority caterer in the city to figure out who can do an outdoor grilling type of event, that's tough on a procurement person. So then you might end up defaulting to whoever you want to in the past to do this thing, which once again does not open up opportunities for competition. So I think that that's also been a major struggle.
And do you expect to see maybe local government be able to sort of facilitate more of a attempt for these large organizations to purchase locally?
I absolutely do. And we're already seeing trends in the right direction. You know, we had a page summit earlier this year, and Councilman Mark Squilla, Councilwoman Jamie Gautier, Councilman Isaiah Thomas, as well as the mayor, all attended or sent in videos talking about the importance of procurement, sharing their expectations, as well as showing support for the program and for the individual programs at each one of these anchor institutions. So I think that we are seeing City Council get more and more involved. We also get recommendations about different businesses we should connect with from City Council people. So that's always valuable when something comes from their office, like, hey, this is a great business in my district. We think that they're ready to work with anchor institutions. Can you help them make some introductions? I do think that there is more opportunity for partnership. I don't think that that's necessarily anyone's fault or anything. It's just we're a relatively new program. And this type of coordination isn't something that there's great examples of across the country. Like, we know that coordination is needed, but there's not that many great anchor collaboratives to learn from. So I think it's just a very messy process to figure out what the best practices are, when government should or shouldn't get involved, when things should be left up to the institutions, and when even like semi-government and nonprofit players need to be involved. Organizations like PIDC, the Enterprise Center, the community college that does amazing business training, as well as the Goldman Sachs 10K small business program. There's all these resources across the city, and we're trying to work our best to coordinate with them as well. But there's not necessarily a clear path forward on who needs to be involved when. So, like I said, we're trying to figure that all out.
And when we look at take a 30,000-foot view of where we are in the city right now, what are some things that could be happening right now to create a more equitable Philadelphia?
Oof. I think getting really hands-on about the way we look at construction could be really, really valuable. You know, construction offers a lot of opportunities. And in Philadelphia, I mean, we're spending billions of dollars to build new buildings relatively regularly. So Philadelphia is going through this amazing construction boom. Our skyline is growing. And we know that there's going to be federal money coming through the bipartisan infrastructure bill coming into the region as well. I think that making sure that there's minority participation at every level in the construction space is something that could have very immediate and very high quality effects on poverty reduction, as well as just equity in general. I think that that's a space. It's just so many people are employed. Wages are relatively solid. Business growth for minority business people in the space can be solid if they're properly supported. So I think that that's an area where we can see a lot of impact over time.
Hey, and where can people find out more about the Economy League?
So they can visit our website, economyleague.org, or they can email me, Kenyatta James at economyleague.org, if they have very specific questions about our program. We're in media a decent amount, you know, more as a think tank. So oftentimes you'll see our research from one of our partners being quoted, or maybe one of our members of leadership being quoted about something that we did a project on, or a piece of information that we shared. So looking at some of that information can be valuable. I think that if you really just want if you're interested in research and just understanding what's happening there and maybe attending some of our events, LinkedIn and Twitter are great resources. Our research team does a great job of putting out both large and small pieces of information. So you get both, okay, I want to really dive into a topic. Bam, you've got some really great research that you can tackle. But there's also, short Philly facts. Hey, did you know sort of information that's easily digestible and might be a nice addition to a day, when you're on a commute or in between meetings to just learn a little bit more about what's happening in the city.
Okay. Kenyatta James of the Economy League of Greater Philadelphia. Thank you so much.
And thank you for having me.